Hello everyone, it's Alexandra. Today we begin to work on assembling the page number 3 in our mushroom mini book. Just to refresh your memory, on page 3 we have a built-in envelope with a little booklet inside, and we have a horizontal tracing paper pocket with some bits and bobs in it. Then we have a card inside the pocket page, and on the reverse we have a horizontal pocket with a see-through window and another little journal or booklet that goes behind that pocket. Let's have a look at the digital pages from the kit that we're going to use. This is our base page number 3. Then we have the flaps of the envelope, the matting pieces for the envelope flaps. You're going to need this page, and you will see which elements exactly we are going to cut out. Then we have already cut out the tickets from the page that looks like this. And this is the large card number 3 that will go inside the pocket. Then we're going to need this page, mostly everything except for the leaves that I do recommend that you fussy cut and just store somewhere aside for later. Then from this page we're going to need the booklet covers, and also, let me have a look, I think the bottles with the mushrooms. And then from this page we are going to need the label that says specimen preservation, but I think that I'm also going to cut out the rest of the elements here and again store them aside for later. And then from this page we're only going to need this round label with the mushrooms, and all the rest will be used later. Let me cut the base page out, and I think I will also cut out the flaps of the envelope and the rest of the pieces as well. And I will ink everything and get back to you. On each one of these outer flaps of the future envelope, we have 1/8 of an inch wide gussets. To fold them easier, since they're quite thin, I recommend to use a ruler. Put your envelope flap on the working surface and align the ruler next to one of the scored lines. Then just use a bone folder or just your fingers and fold the rest of the flap towards the ruler, making sure that you don't move the ruler, and then repeat the process for the second score line. This way your folds will be straight and just in the right places. To punch out this shape of an opening in the horizontal pocket on the reverse side of our page, I first folded the flaps in after scoring them, of course, and now I'm going to use my 1¼ inch punch. I will line it up with the edges of the opening on one side and then on the opposite side. Punch out 2 circles, and then I will use my ruler and a craft knife for finishing off the needed shape and trimming the excess paper. I think I need to straighten the line a little bit here, but this is how it will look like when you ink the edges. Again, I remind you, do not forget, ink the inside edges of the opening. I also want to say a few words about the way of cutting out these bottles. As you can see, I cut around the outer edges of the cut box, so to say. Now I'm going to fold the paper like so, making sure that this edge is lined up. Then I will add the glue. Like so, and then I will cut between 2 of the bottles, again using that guideline that I still have between the 2 of them. Now I can use my scissors and just cut more around the edges the way I want to give these bottles their final shape. They will wait for their turn to be inked all around, and I will, in the meanwhile, cut out the faux postage stamps. All the elements for today's page have been cut out. I'm going to ink up everything as usual and get back to you. I will also fussy cut all of the elements from the pages that I used today and keep them in a separate box. When you ink up the flaps for the envelope, I want you to pay attention that this group of flaps will only have to be inked around the edges on the outside, and this group of flaps will have to be inked both on the outside, including those white lines of the fold that you will have to apply the ink onto, and also on the outside like this. Each one of the flaps will be matted on the inside with an additional piece, and we want the visible edges to be less bright and to have ink on them. Let's start assembling the base page first, because that's something that we already can do. I will apply the glue onto the flap and seal the page closed. I can also glue down together the large card that will go inside the pocket. I can also use my page tab number 3 and the card from my first page as a template for adhering the page tab, the same way as I showed you in the previous tutorial. Next, we are going to work on the envelope and the flaps. So this is the matting piece that will be not visible but will form the base of the envelope, and the flaps will be attached to it. We will also have a vellum pocket inside our envelope. I prepared a strip of vellum, or we can use tracing paper as well. The piece that I have is 2¼ inch wide. I didn't trim it to the correct length yet, because you will have to measure your matting piece of paper and cut the tracing or vellum strip to the same size. I'm going to adhere the vellum strip to the cardstock, securing it just in 3 places like so, making sure that I know where the opening is going to be. I will attach it right along the 3 edges of the cardstock, like so, and then I will check that there are no areas of tracing paper overhanging from the sides. Next, we are going to attach the outer flaps of the future envelope to this middle section of the paper. First of all, make sure that you are going to glue them down correctly, that each one of the flaps is going to its correct place. I'm going to start with the top flap right here. When you glue the envelope flap down to the middle section of the paper, make sure that you center it, since it is a little bit narrower than the width of the cardstock piece. I will glue the flap down to the cardstock up to this bottom score line. I will do now the same with the flap at the bottom. We will have to glue down the side flaps exactly the same way, making sure that we center them. All of the outer flaps have been glued down to this piece of cardstock. I'm going to take this whole element to my sewing machine and stitch around the perimeter of the middle section. I remind you to increase the stitch length to at least 3 millimeters. Once you're done, just pull the tails of the threads to the back, tie them in a double knot, and secure with a piece of painter's tape. Now let's get back to the matting pieces for our flaps. You will be able to read the text, and this will let you know where each one of the pieces will have to go. So I think that this is the correct way. I'm going to glue down each one of the pieces to the backs of the flaps and get back to you. This is how our envelope will now look like. We can get back to our base page and flip it to this side right here. We're also going to take our horizontal pocket with a shaped window. To cover the window on the inside, we will need a piece of acetate. This acetate piece needs to be 6¼ by 2¼ I'm going to glue it down closer to the bottom edge of the pocket. I'm going to add the pieces of tape here in the corners of the flaps. Like that. Now I'm going to add the glue to the 3 flaps and glue the envelope down to the page, making sure that I line it up with the bottom edge of the base page itself. Let's get back to this blank area. I'm going to flatten down the stitching using my bone folder. and then apply the glue in the back of this whole paper piece. Pay attention to the outer edges. Try to apply glue as close to the outer edges as possible. Let's just double check that we have everything in the correct direction. Okay, and just put this piece on top of your base page. Make sure that you line up the edges as best as you can. For keeping the envelope closed, I would like to use a Velcro dot. Now my Velcro is attached in place. This part is hardly visible, but it's there. And we can add a few pieces inside our envelope. We have the cards. We have the 2 tags. And we have the bottles. And we will also add the booklet that we're going to create right now. We are going to add our pages, and we need to know what the size of the pages should be. My cover, when unfolded, is 7 3/8 by 5 3/8. I'm going to cut 4 pieces of printing paper in that size. Here they are. I folded them in half, and I will stack them together. This is how they're going to go into the booklet. We can always trim the edges, which are showing here at the bottom. For attaching them to the cover of the booklet, I'm going to use 2 staples. First of all, I need to take them out. Now I can just use my poking tool, eyeball where exactly the staple will go. I'm poking one hole first, about 1/2 inch away from the edge, and then I can put my staple and see where the second hole needs to be. Now our booklet is ready to go into the pocket. We have to work on the booklet for the reverse side of the page. And for that, we're going to use 2 of the remaining pieces that we have cut out today. My pattern paper measures 5 5/8 by 3 5/8. I will cut a piece of cardstock to 5 7/8 first, which is going to be basically a 1/4 inch longer than the length of the printed paper. I can glue down this paper piece closer to the bottom of the cardstock piece. Pay attention to the direction of the paper. This is how you should glue it down. Now I will take the scoreboard and I will have to score a line at 3 7/8, and then when I fold the paper I will have 1/8 of an inch border, or about that, at the top of my future booklet cover. Now I can just use a pencil and draw a line along which I will have to cut off the excess cardstock piece. This will be the front of my booklet cover. I will flip it to the back and glue down the pattern paper piece on top. This is how it will look like once unfolded. In my previous version of this booklet, what I did was I adhered a piece of fabric under the pattern paper pieces, and then I also stitched around the edges. This time I think I'm just going to use the staples for attaching the pages to this booklet cover. You are welcome to do what you want. For adding the pages, you will unfold your cover and measure it. Mine is 7 3/4 by 5 7/8. I will cut 4 pieces of printing paper of that size. Here they are. I will once again fold them in half, stack them together, and attach them to my booklet cover with the staples. Here is our booklet. I remind you that if you want to trim the edge of the pages so that they're all looking nice and even, you can do that even after attaching them to the cover. Our booklet is ready to go into the pocket on the reverse side of the page. I also want to add something to the vellum pocket that we have inside the envelope, and for that I'm going to use 3 of these elements. There we go. This is what we have now. All of the elements can go back to the pocket as well as the booklet. We can close the flaps of the envelope, and this is our page for today. The rest of the tiny elements will be cut out and used later in the project. 3 pages of our mini book are now completed, and we will work on the page number 4 in the next part of the tutorial. I hope you are enjoying the process so far. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!